thanks very much, everyone, for turning up to listen to my talk. I was just thinking on sort of driving on the way, how is it possible to put years and years of experience and explain it in half an hour? So obviously a very difficult job. Undoubtedly, I'm not going to do it justice, but hopefully I'll share some really interesting nuggets that you might be able to use in your own journeys if you are aspiring entrepreneurs. Can I take a show of hands of who is an aspiring entrepreneur, who's kind of working right now on something? Oh, cool. All right, so that's great. Before I sort of dive into kind of tell you the gory detail about how to build an $85 million business, I thought maybe a little bit about my background and kind of where I come from, etc. We've been told a little bit about it. But I was actually born in Iran, so Middle East, and it was really fun being born in kind of a really hot country. We didn't have to worry about rain too much, nice summers, etc. I had a great childhood, and coming up to my teenage years, revolution happened in my country, and our worlds were sort of turned upside down. And then the war happened. So it's quite interesting in the sense that it's, with a lot of the current talks around Brexit and with Trump in the US, it's sort of as an immigrant standing here saying that I've been a success, I thought it would just be an interesting thing for you to know that I do come from a Middle Eastern country. And also the other thing to kind of say is that one of the things that I personally sort of learned, and I think it kind of made me to who I am, is to, as a teenager, to move into a country like Britain. It was quite a big shock in the sense that you go from, your own country, your own friends, you leave a lot behind, but then you have to rebuild a new life in a new country. So I think a lot of the sort of, if you like, drive that was in me was really to make the most of the opportunity that I had in this country and was presented to me. So I thought a little bit of background on that might help put this in context as to, perhaps why I'm or have been so driven. So how do you build an $85 million business? It starts with an idea, and you would think that it just goes to success, right? It's a straight path to success. And as Ruben said, the idea was basically in the telecom sector. That's kind of how I started my career in electronics degree, went to telecom sector. And the idea was really to come up with a software that automates the way mobile network operators optimize and plan their networks for third generation, which was at the time quite new. So back in sort of 2000, 2001, 2002, 3G was just coming up to, being a standard that was being adopted. Now we're talking about 5G, so it just sort of shows how old I am. It was an idea, and it went to success. And success, I sold the company and obviously made a lot of money out of it. But was it a straight line? Was it all kind of straight path to it? Not really. And it never is. So the reason I did this is because, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur and you're just starting your journey, really your journey is going to look something like that as well. Hopefully it will be a straight line, but seldom that happens. You start with the idea, you build something, you kind of, you go around in circles at some points, and then actually, eventually at some point you think, oh, bloody hell, this idea didn't work, I better get back to another idea, and then, that takes off. And that's pretty much what happened in my startup. So, when I started with the original product, it was the right market, absolutely, because 3G was just taking off, and, I brought in this software, etc. But ultimately, I was not successful with my first product. We sold to a few mobile operators, tier 1 customers, like AT&T, Vodafone. But really, we didn't succeed because a competitor came and took that market. So the point where effectively you see here was eventually at that point I realized, I'm sorry, I've got to go back to the drawing board again, because my first idea just wasn't going to work. So I came up with another idea, and that one took off, and then we managed to sort of get here. So I guess the point of this slide is that, look, you start off in a particular direction, with the best will in the world, you think that's going to work, but if it doesn't, don't give up. It doesn't mean, it's a failure. Just use that experience and make it work with your next one. And that's pretty much what happened in mine. So one of the things that, as I said, it's really difficult to box in 10, 12 years of experience into half an hour, but what are the really critical things that I think as an entrepreneur when you're starting off on your journey is actually before you really get going, or after you've found your first few founders or whatever, if it's a team of you, define success. Define what's that end goal, right? What is it that you're going to feel proud of at the end of that journey? Now, that's different for every person, right? Some entrepreneurs will be quite happy to have a business that's profitable and small, and they want to keep running it. And that's fine. That's success for you. And if you want to achieve that, set on that particular path. Other entrepreneurs, like me, I wanted to make it big. I wanted to kind of, grow a really big company, sell it for loads, et cetera, et cetera. That was kind of my criteria. So that's what I went for. So success, just because I sold it for 85 million, doesn't mean that's the only success story. It really depends on your own personal decision as to what you regard as successful. So if, for example, your aspirations really are not to sell it for 85 million, just want to have a really good business and profitable or whatever, then you have to make a different set of decisions. For example, in terms of investment, the path you want to take. But if you want to go for the big ones, then that's a different kind of a path you want. So it's really, really important that you're clear in your own mind and with your founders. If you are a set of founders, that group of people that starts that company have a common understanding of what success means. The other one is don't run out of cash. So I told you it's a very convoluted path to the end game, whatever success means for you. But obviously that could be cut short if you run out of cash. Any business needs some injection of cash at some point, if it's not going to be just a solo, type of a startup. And it's really critical that, when you're kind of doing your business plan, that you're realistic, that you raise enough money, and you never fall into that situation. So I'm happy to report that I never ran out of cash, although I very came close to it, though. The other thing that is, I think, really critical in a business, and it's something that I try to do. And you hear these stories about, this, kid developed, 16-year-old kid developed this app and got bought for billions or whatever. I mean, we hear some of these. They're very, very rare. Normally, actually building a successful business takes years and years and years. It takes a long time. And really, what you have to do is you have to focus on building a sustainable business and building kind of revenue, really focus on the money. A lot of entrepreneurs I know sort of start off with technology and they live for the technology. That's great, but if you want to turn it into a business needs to make money. Alas, don't run out of cash. So they're all kind of linked. By focusing on the revenue and building a sustainable business, then what you're really doing, you're building something valuable. And that's what I basically try to do in my business. The other thing that I always say to entrepreneurs is focus on your business and run it as if you're going to run it forever, as if you're going to pass it on to your kids, right? Even if your end goal, if your success criteria is exit, even if you want to exit for zillions of dollars, but to build that business, build it up with that mindset, because what that means is that you'll make good decisions rather than short-term decisions that you think is going to lead to an amazing exit, but actually will end up, basically being your coffin. You might run out of cash. So, what are the kind of the key ingredients of what I think is to build a sustainable business and growing your revenue and so on? And this list is really kind of applicable to my business, and I think pretty much across, I would say, any business that I've seen become successful. Starts with people. Really, really critical in the sense that if you're going on a particular journey, you're just starting off, even if you're just one founder or two or group of founders, doesn't matter. If you want to bring a business to market, get good people around you. Really critical, whether it's an advisor or whatever, experience matters. And it's really that initial group of people that's going to make or break that company. So for me, that's like the most critical thing. And this is what, by the way, for those of you who are looking for investment, that's what the investors will look at. They wouldn't just look at your business plan and what you've got. They will look at you as a person. Are you the person who's going to work 20 hours a day to make this a success? Because that's what it's going to take, right? It's not a walk in the park. So make sure you've got a smart team, tenacious, dynamic, hardworking, and get experienced people around you because it helps so much. Like I said, for example, I've been through a journey over the last 11, 12 years, and there's no way I can, tell you about that 12 years and every single point of the experience in half an hour. But if you get somebody, a mentor, and I think this is what Ruben and the team have done so well, is to get a set of mentors that frankly are invaluable to have. Those even like 1 hour with them could potentially save you years of going around those circles, right? I wish I had someone like me when I started my business. It's true. The next thing is technology. I mean, obviously I'm I did an electronics degree here, so I'm an engineer, and I believe in having basically a business that has differentiation, right? Technology differentiation. And it's really hard to build a business with a small team if you don't have that. So to me, building really good technology, first guys in the sense that it's, you're much, much better than your competitor. You're punching really well above your weight. And this is really critical. If you've got something that's unique, protect it. I know patents cost a lot of money and so on, but at least get some initial protection in place. Again, it's really critical for investors to know that what you've got is actually unique and it can be defensible. The next one is market. So is it a big market, right? So you've got to understand where you're taking your business into. So we had the pitch about sort of, a business that was an app that was focused on less Japanese, Chinese market, huge market, billions, obviously China, billions of people and so on. But figure out exactly what that means, how you're going to make money out of it, and ultimately, coming back to how you're going to make the revenue. So, is it a large market? Is it large enough to build the kind of business that you define as success? So not everybody has to have $2 billion markets, right? That's not what I'm talking about. If your aspiration isn't to sell your business for hundreds of millions of dollars, then you don't need a $5 billion market. if success criteria for you is to have a successful business and run it and be profitable, then actually a $50 million market may be actually fine, right? So it really depends on that level or where you want to get to. But again, focus on this, know your market, know how you're going to make money out of it. And the other one is sort of the strategy and the vision. So, you know, the one thing that I've seen entrepreneurs or other entrepreneurs, I've actually been mentoring since I left the company that acquired my company. And, you know, I've been involved with a few startups. And the biggest sort of thing that I see here is that, you know, they really don't set out kind of where they want to get to over the next, you know, 3, 4, 5 years. And I think if you don't sort of set your vision that far out, then you don't know what you need to do now in order to get there. So there's, you know, yes, you don't know what's going to happen in 3, 4 years. I mean, nobody does, right? But it's important to set out a strategy and then look at what you need to do in order to achieve it. If you don't, then the number of circles will become a lot higher in terms of getting to your success level. And obviously the probability of you running out of cash becomes higher as well. But if you've got a really solid strategy and you've got good people, experienced people advising you in that, then the likelihood is that you will have a much smoother path to your end destination, the success, whatever that success is. I'm a big one on vision. I think, again, as technology companies, to me, it's really critical that you demonstrate that you're a thought leader in a particular industry. So my company, Ariso, it was a completely novel way of looking at, this is the second product, like I said, the first product wasn't as successful, was widely successful as we hoped, but the second product was. But it was really turning the whole problem upside down. It was doing something completely different. Mobile operators drove test everything, right? They're drive testing to see what essentially the quality of service was, whereas we collected the data straight what was coming out of the handsets at the network. And by doing that, we had all of the subscribers of the mobile operator drive testing everywhere. So pseudo drive testing, indoors, outdoors. So it was a completely new way. When we brought out to market, nobody was doing that. Nobody had thought of that way of doing it. And we were the first to market with that product. And so we really then formed ourselves as the visionaries of the mobile network. This is how we're going to move forward. And we came up with this sort of buzzword, customer-centric, which then became, you know, quite well known in amongst our industry, a sort of customer-centric way of planning and optimizing a network, which, you know, was something that was visionary at the time, and it's now fairly normal. Everybody talks about customer-centric, customer experience in mobile industry, if you're familiar with it. But at the time, it was quite visionary. Nobody had done it. So if you can be a thought leader, that has a lot of, I think, you know, from a marketing perspective, obviously it brings you up way above all of your other competitors. But also, I think to be the visionary, the leader in a particular industry, you know, also helps with your exit valuation considerably. Customers, clearly, you know, obviously they pay wages, they pay your expenses, so, you know, very important, and focusing on growth. So those are the really ingredients that you need in order to build an $85 million business, in my opinion. Or any business, frankly, for that matter. So how did it go for us? This is sales, right? This is sales growth, and up here is like 40 million, a couple of million. So we went from 2 million of sales, actually, you know, selling to customers, money, to 40 million in that short space of time. And this is the number of people that the company had at the time. I started the company a lot earlier, 2002, but I didn't want to go back and show you all the different revenues before that, because it was much more tinier. But it just kind of shows you that, and this is when we launched the second product, by the way. This is when we had the circle, then we went all the way back to the idea again. That was back in 2007, and then it took us 2 years to bring the second product into market. And then it just went like that. And you can see that, if you have something that's unique, and if you do the right things, as I talked about in the previous slide, you have the right people in place, you have unique technology, and you market it well, then it is possible to grow your business this fast. And I had the most amazing time growing this business. It was a lot of fun to go from 20 people to about 120 plus people in a really short space of time. And so yeah, the parties were amazing, especially the exit one. But the thing that I just wanted to sort of share with you is obviously the growth is really critical, but we actually became profitable in 2011. So I was always sort of focused on making sure that this business was a sustainable business and making money. Because when you sort of build your business up and you want to sell it, usually speaking, the buyer wants to buy something that's profitable, that's a business that actually stands on its 2 feet. So that was one of the criteria. We wanted to get to profitability, we did. And then, when they bought us, it was, it wasn't a drain on their balance sheet, it was actually a positive contribution to them. So, this is kind of where we got to. So if I look at every single one of these criteria that I already described to you, that I think is critical to have if you're going to build a successful business. People. By the time I exited the company, we had a team of seasoned managers. Effectively, we had a kind of an autonomous business unit that any acquirer could just buy and plug it in. And that's kind of really important for an acquirer, especially when they're paying a lot of money, like $85 million. They really don't want a team that they need to babysit. They want a team that basically functions and knows what they're doing, and they're selling and they're developing and they've got all those processes already sorted out. So we had all the functions and all of the, effectively we were just a business unit. We became a business unit of theirs. And that was attractive to them because they didn't have to teach us how to do it. We knew how to do it, run our business. Technology, by the time we sold, we had applied for 30 patents, and I think 9 of them were granted, or 7 of them. I can't remember, 6 of them or something. Anyway, a good number of them granted by the time we sold the company. We were recognized as the thought leader in the market. The telecom market obviously is huge, but we were, for a company that was a 100-man company, we were punching well above our weight. I never forget a comment by a senior executive at AT&T that, because we'd known him for a long time and so on, and in a conversation, he happened to ask, well, how many people have you got? And we said, oh, we've got 110. So, oh my God, I thought you had 500. So the perception he had of us was like, we were this huge company. We were this really amazing, successful company. And really? You only do that with 100 people? Wow. So, punching well above our weight. Strategy, we had a clear strategy, clear vision. And the thing that we could show to the acquirer, if that is your success criteria, you want to sell your business for hundreds of millions, or in my case, 85 million, then not only you have to show that graph, right? Look, I'm successful, right? I've got this hockey stick growth. But beyond this point, which is where we got acquired, you have to show that you can take it even further, that this graph continues and it doesn't sort of fall off a cliff. So you've got to show that essentially your strategy and your vision is going to continue growing this business into something that's much, much bigger. And obviously having a bigger parent company, they can use their resources and sales team. So we had a sales team of 40 people. when we sold, they had a sales team of 500 around the world. So they're thinking, wow, you know, if they can do this with 40 people, what if I bring my 500 guys and sell this product? You know, those are the kind of things they look for. Customers, we had 40 tier 1 mobile operator customers around the world, and we could show to them that we could acquire another 60 in the next 2-3 years. So we showed them a clear path that growth was going to continue. And obviously growth, well, you saw it, right? This is what every acquirer dies for. That's what they paid the money. I mean, to sell a company for 40 times profitability number is huge, right? It's absolutely humongous. It's, you know, I think we were making like, yeah, so 2 and a bit million. We were profitable by 2 and a bit million, and then they pay 85 million for it. So nearly 40 times, which is unheard of. But they paid for it because of all of these elements that I talked about. So I wanted to finish the presentation with this kind of last quote, which unfortunately isn't mine, but I really like it. Just to again emphasize, it takes time, it really does. And those of you who think, oh, I'm going to launch a company and then get rich quick, doesn't happen. 10 years is about the right, I think. Well, it certainly took me 10 years, but it's a lot of hard work. Expect 20-hour day long, you know, type of effort, and it can take that long to be successful. So that was all. That's all I had. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm happy to take any questions, and yeah, so open the floor. Wow, that's a good question. As a woman, it's weird. I started talking about me as an immigrant. I'm a woman. Yeah, I really had the short straw there, didn't I? So as a woman, it's really hard. I think it's much harder because I don't know, women feel much more guilty about leaving their kids behind in the house than men do. So it was hard. And the sacrifice I made, I think, out of the 10 years that I worked in my startup, and if I counted all the time that I was away from my family, I think I didn't see my kids for 6 years. Obviously not 6 years in a continuously. But, you know, the amount of traveling I had to do, because this was an international business, and we had, you know, 120 people everywhere, and we sold everywhere. We sold, you know, from Latin America to US to China to, you know, Southeast Asia, Middle East, you know. And as CEO, you know, you have to go and see your customers, and you have to be involved with everything. And so, yeah, I did a huge amount of travel. So I think the thing that sacrificed, if you like, was certainly a personal one, but I would do it again. So that's the biggest one, I think. Yeah. Well, like I said, right from the beginning, my success criteria was I'm going to sell my business at some point. And, but that was just me, right? Some people don't want to. Some people just want to carry on forever. That's fine too. But when someone made the offer that I couldn't refuse, I thought that was a good time. And I already spent like 10 years in my business. And so I really kind of, I guess I needed a break as well. So yeah, that was the reason. We see, the very bugbear of mine is that I didn't quite make the 100 million mark. it was really, I kind of, it's, yeah. So I've set myself a goal of $1 billion now. I thought if I'm going to go high, I might as well just go really high. So yeah, I'd love to sell a company for $1 billion. That would be awesome. I'm working on that. I wouldn't do those. I think what I would do differently is, well, having now had that experience, I know what not to do, which is great. But in terms of business, you're always learning, right? You know, different businesses have different challenges, but actually it's quite common. The challenges are, interestingly, you know, you can take one set of experiences and apply to different types of businesses. So I think my next one, and by the way, I'm not doing one on my own, I'm actually helping a number of companies. So I'm helping other entrepreneurs, so I'm on boards and chairwoman, that kind of, so that's how I'm getting involved with different companies. I'm hoping that I would have a much smoother ride to success. So that's what I would do differently. I think the biggest one is, as an entrepreneur, you know, you're quite single-minded, and you know, you want to go somewhere, you want to get stuff done, and because inevitably, you know, you don't have all the experiences, especially if you're a first-time entrepreneur. I think that you end up making a bunch of mistakes, and those bunch of mistakes, for example, in my case, I was an engineer, right? I wrote software, and you know, the first product that we brought out, I was responsible for writing a whole bunch of software in that, and you know, so I thought having the best product is gonna do it, right? That was my first product I brought out, and I didn't pay any attention to all the other things I talked about: sales and marketing, the market, how I was going to get to customers, and that kind of thing. I thought having the best technology was the thing to do. And it turned out to be completely wrong. And I learned the lessons when I launched my second product, when I kind of, you know, went back to the drawing board, because the first one wasn't going to, you know, really make the company successful. And I didn't repeat those mistakes again. I really focused on sales, I focused on marketing, I focused on the vision, the strategy, you know, all the stuff that I talked about. I didn't do that in my first product. I just thought, I have an amazing product. Of course it's going to sell itself. It doesn't. So. It's always easier to convince someone else when you're risking your own money too, because that gives them confidence that you have confidence. But it just depends on a personal circumstance, you know. Like, for example, when I did my business, I mean, I didn't have a capital. I couldn't put anything in, which meant that when I first started, I actually did consultancy, and I used that money to fund some of the development. So it was kind of putting my own money in, but it wasn't really. But later on, you know, I actually, when I raised money, I put my own money in as well, because it just gives more confidence to the investor. But if you're in a situation where you really genuinely can't put your own money in, the investors don't get put off by it. I just think it just helps, that's all. So it really depends on your personal circumstances, I think. I don't know if that answers your question, but. To raise money, I think, you know, you've, like I said, you've got to have an answer to a lot of the questions that I said here. Like, you know, to an investor, you've got to show you're a credible team. You don't have to be experienced, right? You know, I wasn't experienced when I raised money, But I could show that I had a credible technical career. I'd worked for Vodafone, I'd worked for another company, I'd had an amazing degree from an amazing university. So, you know, so you're kind of, you know, you're kind of selling yourself. That's the first thing. Then you're selling your technology, you know. The other thing is, you know, a lot of people think just because they've got an idea they can raise money, forget it. No one invests in an idea, take it further. Get it to some kind of a prototype, then go out and raise money. It's you'll be very lucky if someone just pays you a whole bunch of money on the back of an idea. So get to something, you know, a prototype, something to demonstrate to them. And then, you know, do your homework. What is your market? How much money are you going to make? It has to be realistic, it has to be convincing, you know. So if a market is 50 million, don't come and try to sell it as a $2 billion market because your investor is going to see through that. So I think those are the things that you need to kind of think about. And routes to market and how you're going to get there, that kind of thing. So you need to have answers to a lot of questions before you can raise investment. It's hard, especially when you're hiring that aggressively. I mean, it was funny. You know, I think once we passed the 50 mark, I didn't know everyone's name, and that was kind of a sad moment for me personally. And we were hiring so fast. You know, sometimes I used to go to kitchen to make coffee, and there would be this person I'd never seen before. I'm like, oh, hello, you know, who are you? who hired you into the company? It's hard. I think that the really critical thing is you have to. I'm a big believer that culture comes from the top. You know, the person who's driving the bus forward, you know, if they see you, you know, driving and enthusiastic and really kind of, you know, pushing, then everyone else is going to kind of imitate. And also, it's also about having a really amazing team of leaders that report into. So, for example, you know, I had, I think, the most incredible team of executives, head of sales, CTO, you know, just an amazing team. And they were looked up to by a whole bunch of other people. So, you know, one of the things that at the beginning when you start the journey, it's all about the founder, it's all about a few people, right? But when you get to 100, it can't be about just one person. Not all of us are Steve Jobs. So we have to build a leadership team that's admired and people look up to. So that's what I focused on. I focused on building, you know, really strong team, and that's how you keep the culture going. And I think we were really successful. You know, I had the most amazing compliments given to me by spouses of people who worked for me. So, you know, we would be on a company, you know, party or something or another, and the number of times wives, unfortunately, it's a technology company, so a lot of men worked for me. I'd love to get more female in there. But they would come up to me and say, you know, my husband has the most amazing time at your company. He's loving it. And those compliments were so just, you know, I was so proud to hear them. But that's kind of how we kept the culture alive. We also had, we were a kind of I was a party animal, and maybe it's just sort of to say that. We had a lot of parties. We celebrated success a lot. And I think that's really also important. I mean, people forget in their kind of relentless strive to get to success, they forget to celebrate what's been achieved and look back. And so we did a lot of that. And I think that sort of gave a sense of achievement as well to everybody. If you think you've got a good idea, go for it. I mean, don't let lack of experience get in the way of you going for the business that you believe in, because you can bring experience in. I mean, that's thankfully, you know, especially with what Rubens and the Future World guys are trying to achieve. You know, you've got certainly Southampton University folks, you know, you've got a wealth of experience already in some of these mentors, but I wouldn't wait. In fact, I wish I'd started my company a lot earlier. but I just didn't have the idea then. So you've got to have a good idea. I mean, don't just graduate and say, right, I'm going to start a company without actually having any clue what the hell you're going to do. So you have to have a good idea, whatever. But yeah, go for it. Why not?
Well, let's thank Shirin.
Thank you.